things to be a man, right? So you're gonna die quicker. No, that's what that says. Honestly, there's a lot of differences between men and women. I mean, I look at it like this, and it's probably a different subject for a different day, but men are like waffles. They're doing one thing at a time, like this. I'm doing this right now. Don't bother me. I'm doing this. Women are like spaghetti. Everything connects.
It's much like a fishnet, if you will. If you get a snag in an area of fascia, you think about that pull in the fishnet, it's going to affect the whole fishnet. So that area of fascia can become constricted, and it can be deficient in the production of something called hyaluronin.
There was one thing that the people could really own. That would be the understanding of the power, the role, the duty, the responsibility, the authority of our states.
Talk a little bit about this thing called the gender gap of health. And I wanted to read this little excerpt that came from an article I was evaluating earlier this morning. It says the longevity gap is responsible for the striking demographic characteristics of older Americans. More than half of all women older than age 65 are widows, and widows outnumber widowers by at least 3 to 1. And at age 65, for every 100 American women, there are only 77 men. At age 85, the disparity is even greater, with women outnumbering men 2.6 to 1. And that longevity gap persists into very old age. Let's talk about what some of the reasons for this longevity gap are.
Well, I think the first takeaway is it stinks to be a man, right? So you're going to die quicker. No, that's what that says. Honestly, there's a lot of differences between men and women. I mean, I look at it like this, and it's probably a different subject for a different day, but men are like waffles. They're doing one thing at a time, like this. I'm doing this right now. Don't bother me. I'm doing this. Women are like spaghetti. Everything connects. And it's like you touch one piece of spaghetti over here and it's going to infect it over here. That's not how men think. So we have a thinking difference. We have hormonal differences. We have chromosomal differences. And women actually do live longer than men. I think probably the overarching theme of that is it's probably by design, because it requires a lady to get pregnant, right, to have babies, right? So you always have to have a supply of ladies around. So I think probably a lot of that is all those things included.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned is chromosomal, and women have 2 X chromosomes, and males only have 1.
Yep.
So in women, there is some chromosomal forgiveness because they have two of those genes, where a male is only carrying that 1 copy.
Yeah, and I suppose some of that is probably unknown at this point, What is it in that double X chromosome combination that is elucidates probably more ability to heal quicker or have an immune system that deals with things better, longer? Don't know. I think there's the jury's still out on that, but obviously there's something there. I can tell you this, though, from a heart disease standpoint, I know men produce on average less of the HDL, the high density lipoprotein, and women produce more. And that in itself right there is pretty important.
And in the older generations, we saw a lot more males smoking than we saw females. However, I think we're starting to see that gender gap close as this thing called vaping is coming into play.
We are. And obviously, a lot of the data that we're looking at over time has history factored in. History is a sort of study of time, and as the more that gap goes forward and you have more time to look at, we possibly will see that gap, increase. But what we've seen, too, over the course of longevity over the last 100 years is we've seen the life expectancy go up exponentially. I mean, 20, 30, 40 years for each sex respectively. So it's a lot to do with it, but you're right on smoking over the course of time. It was predominantly males that were in commercials, that were supporting, the selling of, tobacco products.
Well, also in times gone by, it was the males that were in the workforce undergoing the majority of the stress.
Yeah.
And we know that stress can have a significant impact on health.
Well, the males, I think, are indeed by nature wired to protect and provide. That's what they do. So, they're going to stand in the gap, if you will. If there's a lion coming, at the family, they're going to stand in the way and be the lion snack and let their family go free. And they're also, genetically wired, I believe, to go out there and make a living, to hunt, gather, etc. And it's different, right? It's different. So there probably is a little different type of stress on the male historically.
Now we're seeing that change as more and more
Yep.
young women are raising their children on their own. And not only are they raising children and being the head of the homestead, now they're having to be the head of the workforce too. So that health gap is changing gender to gender, bringing women into those chronic health conditions that males are predisposed to as well.
Well, that's true. And what we're talking about is not a sexist thing at all. It's just the way things are culturally and the way things are today. So we're just giving you some general information based upon statistics and things that we've seen.
Well, what do you think about risky behavior, taking a life out earlier? Things like not just smoking, but males have a tendency to be more thrill seekers than females, like race car driving, skydiving, fast car racing, just being involved in taking bigger risks.
Well, I think part of that goes, and this is, again, probably a little controversial, but probably true, the male sports are disparately higher in money potential. Like male football is going to raise more money than female volleyball. Not to say that football is more valuable than volleyball. So I think that, men are more leaning towards that area to take these physical sport risk more often in that area. I think it's probably something that's wired in them. I'm not saying women can't do it at all, and they do. I'm saying that that's just the general pattern.
I've also seen, with the health gap, male to female, women oftentimes take better care of their health in terms of nutrition than the males do. Oftentimes they're cooking the meals, they're more conscious about being a little overweight versus the males.
Well, I think that I've said this to many people in my office, and it makes sense to me as a male. The reason women take better care of themselves physically in general is because they're reminded of their health every 28 days for 40 years. They have a reminder of that. Men don't have a reminder. And so because of that, women tend to be more proactive in health. And we need to all become proactive in our health, and we need to all begin to understand the differences between men and women, because sometimes the conversation gets a little bit off, especially in couples, because we don't understand these differences. So take some of the things we've said to you today and understand the differences. The Mars-Venus concept is pretty cool, and begin to do everything you can to work together to enhance both of your lives forward-looking as a couple into the future. So we hope this helps. Come visit us at Sherwood.tv or give us a call.
What is fascia? Why is it important? And how do we take care of it?
Well, certainly we need to find out what is fascia in the first place. So to find out, stay with us.
And when you navigate through these economies with people, here's what happens. We want to hold their hand through it, let them know when it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge. Because a lot of times when you're struck with fear does two things. Number one, it can paralyze, and people just put their head in the sand and say, I'm just going to forget about it and hopefully it gets better. Or it causes you to make a wrong decision. And this is why we are here, is to help people navigate through the political quagmire nonsense that's going on, the economic malaise, and the absolute collapse that we're seeing. And when our freedoms are eroding, our political freedoms, our economic freedoms, our personal freedoms, our religious freedoms, our health freedoms, they're all tied together. But you know what doesn't need to erode with that? our finances.
KirkElliottPhD.com/Sherwood.
There's a lot of talk these days about human enhancement.
Terms like biohacking, bioharmonizing, biosynergizing, stacking, resilience, and anti-fragility.
In our clinic, the Functional Medical Institute, we've been helping people of all shapes, sizes, and backgrounds improve their quality of their physiology and maximize their lives.
So, you can follow the latest fads and gimmicks and maybe find some things that work for you.
Or you can add Kingdom Fuel to your daily regimen right now.
It's the simple start to a transformed life.
Our unique meal shakes are balanced, low glycemic, rich in fiber with 20 grams of clean protein, essential vitamins and minerals, healthy fats, and organic fruits and vegetables. Kingdom Fuel is vegan with a complete amino acid profile.
No gimmicks, just proven results.
Start today at sherwood.tv/fuel.
Hey there, Kevin Sorbo here. Now, deep down, we know this. We're more than just a brain and a body. We're a spirit, we're a soul, and we're also a physical temple. If you hit the wall when you're trying to improve one aspect of your being, it's probably because, well, other aspects are sabotaging our success. So that's why diets don't work. And frankly, why so much conventional wisdom from our so-called medical establishments falls flat. Doctors Michelle and Mark Sherwood have a very different approach. I should know because I happen to be one of their patients. They address the whole person to get to know you, your challenges, and more importantly, what your goals are. Then they offer a complete plan that addresses your unique biology and your heart. They'll help you discover what you need to experience transformation. So find out more at sherwood.tv/sorbo. That's sherwood.tv/sorbo, or see the link before. Now, I'm heading for a workout. You should be going for a workout too. All right, guys. God bless.
It's a matter of fascia tissue. Probably never heard that in the context of medical or physical care. But did you know the fascia tissue is really, really important for overall body compositional, the way it's arranged and the way it's held together? With that said, what is the fascia tissue?
Fascia is a type of connective tissue that if you were to take everything out of the body and leave just the fascia, you would have a holographic image of a person in front of you. And fascia...
Kind of like a Spider-Man outfit, it sounds like.
Kind of like a Spider-Man. Fascia has multiple layers from superficial to deep, even organ or parietal fascia that encompasses organs. And it's much like a fishnet, if you will. If you get a snag in an area of fascia, you think about that pull in the fishnet, it's going to affect the whole fishnet. So that area of fascia can become constricted, and it can be deficient in the production of something called hyaluronin. And when it becomes deficient in that particular substance, the fascia dries up, dries out, and becomes like a trigger point. And that trigger point can be a nidus for chronic pain.
Well, you talk about hyaluronin, you hear people all the time talk about hyaluronic acid. That will help repair that. And fascia is made of collagen. A lot of people don't think about fascia as being important because it's not talked about. But as a former massage therapist, you would really heavily focus on the fascia, wouldn't you?
Well, that's where I would get the biggest difference. And you can change the snag in the fishnet by applying pressure over time. It's called hysteresis. Things will change in their nature if you apply pressure and heat through time. So you can essentially give the body a good ironing. It's like exercising an area that doesn't get enough physical exercise, if you will. Fascia can become very dysfunctional if we don't move because it's blood, oxygen, and nutrients that are moving through the tissues that irrigate the tissues and bring nutrition to them. So if we sit too much, fascia can develop this thing called myofascial pain syndromes because there's just not enough nourishment and there's a lack of hyaluronin that's being produced, and the area, the body becomes dysfunctional.
Well, it's interesting because I think of fascia, maybe two different analogies. One is like pantyhose, right? And the other is like maybe aluminum foil. Both wrap up something, but if there is a run in the hose, that's a problem. And if there's a wrinkle in the wrapping, the aluminum foil, that's a problem too. And you're talking about the ability to kind of fix those runs and fix those wrinkles, even with your hands, right?
Well, whether it's chiropractic, deep tissue massage, there's other things like cupping that are out there now, acupuncture, dry needling. Those techniques all affect the fascia and the fascial layers. And the principle is bringing blood oxygen and nutrients in and flushing out an area that's been stagnant. Now, how else can we treat fascia? Of course, nutrition is going to be highly important in getting enough simply of the omega-3 fatty acids, because omega-3s bring inflammation down.
Good point. And I think people need to understand, since fascia is made from collagen, I believe there's 5 types of collagen.
Yes.
Type 1 is the most abundant, but then I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, type 3 is the structure that builds the fascia. But the bottom line is we can actually bring in collagen, can't we, with supplements. I like whole body collagen. Use it every day.
Put it in your water, dissolves in your water. It's tasteless, colorless, and can go down the gullet while you're working during the day, while you're riding your bike. You can have it in your water holder, in your backpack, fanny pack, satchel. You can take
People
it
are
with
saying,
you.
well, doesn't that get gross? No, the freaky thing is you can put a scoop of our whole body collagen into water that's clear, give it a little bit of a twirl, and it pretty much goes clear again. It's got a little tint of a maybe a dingy brown, maybe a little bit.
Maybe.
But it's slight, but it tastes good, and you don't taste any difference. Some people also put it in their coffee as a creamer. Pretty cool.
So nutrients, collagen, omega-3s, other things that can help fascia are just applying heat.
Yeah.
Maybe through something that's put it like a beanbag that's put in a microwave, and not necessarily electrical heat to tissue, but something that's heated and then placed on the tissue can improve blood flow and oxygen to the tissues. There's also yoga. Yoga is, when done right, yoga is a very dynamic athletic activity that essentially lines up the joints and can help stretch or line up fascia as well.
Well, lining up the joints, lining up fascia, lining up anything is going to help better blood flow, isn't it? I mean, I think that's the moral of the story here. We're trying to bring about oxygenation back to areas again because there's healing in the blood.
Yeah. You talk about that yoga position, down dog. When you get in the down dog, which joints are tight and need some stretching. And as you hang out in one of those positions for a while, that's heat and time, blood, oxygen, and nutrients to the tissue, which improve the health of the fascia. Also using maybe a foam roller. There's all kinds of foam rollers on the market now.
Well, there is, and it's mixed, and sometimes, mixed data it's just what it is. It's mixed. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. It doesn't mean it does work, but you think something does work and it makes you feel better. That's good. I think that when you look at this whole process of the fascia tissue, it's neglected a lot, and a lot of people find themselves in chronic pain situations. I think of plantar fasciitis. The fascia that's on the bottom of your foot and how that gets misaligned and all that, and all these things that can happen. But if we just give a little bit of attention, a little bit of fascial love, and even some facial love too, we'll probably see a little bit more healing there. So, I think take your collagen, do some things we talked about today, make sure you stretch, and make sure you get with someone that knows what they're doing, obviously, to give your fascia a little bit of treatment. And you might find yourself being freed up from some of these pain maladies that bother you. So give us a call at our clinic or reach out to us at Sherwood.tv, and we're happy to help you. What does our Constitution really mean, and how do we interpret it? Find out next with our constitutional attorney expert, Chris Ann Holmes.
Let's get real. Most emergency food is just as bad for you as any other choice in the standard American diet. And that's just sad.
We don't just need food. We need highly nutritional food.
We don't just want to survive food shortages. We are meant to thrive in adversity.
Complete your daily nutrition and have shelf-stable Kingdom Fuel as a cornerstone of your food supply.
Don't sacrifice your health or your taste buds.
Stock up on Kingdom Fuel now.
And when you navigate through these economies with people, here's what happens. We want to hold their hand through it, let them know when it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge. Because a lot of times when you're struck with fear, fear does two things. Number one, it can paralyze, and people just put their head in the sand and say, I'm just going to forget about it and hopefully it gets better. Or it causes you to make a wrong decision. And this is why we are here, is to help people navigate through the political quagmire nonsense that's going on, the economic malaise, and the absolute collapse that we're seeing. And when our freedoms are eroding, our political freedoms, our economic freedoms, our personal freedoms, our religious freedoms, our health freedoms, they're all tied together. But you know what doesn't need to erode with that? Our finances.
KirkElliottPhD.com/Sherwood.
You know, people often ask me, what has been the most destructive lie the American people have been taught about the federal government and the U.S. Constitution? Now, Doc, you and I have talked about this on a previous segment, but it really boils down to the lie that the Supremacy Clause in the Constitution establishes that the federal government and federal laws are superior to state laws and state constitution. Now, our previous segment went into detail and explained how that is absolutely not true. And just a simple reading of Article 6, Clause 2, which is the Supremacy Clause, proves that. But you see, with that deception that has really infested the minds and politics of American government, we have had a falling away of the understanding of governors and attorneys general and even the people of their states of the power and the duty and the responsibility of the state to stand against the exercise of unauthorized federal power. And if there was one thing that I want the American people to really know today, if there was one thing that the American people could know that would change the whole dynamic. I'm not usually a one thing person, right? Because I understand that life is multifaceted and there are many solutions to a single problem and there are complications and details that need to be worked out. So I'm never really a one thing person, but in this situation, there was one thing that the people could really, really own. That would be the understanding of the power, the role, the duty, the responsibility, the authority of our states to say to the federal government, I'm sorry, that the Constitution does not authorize the exercise of that power, and we will not comply. And so in that authority, we have a solution to nearly every single federal problem that we see today. The ATF gun grab. States actually have the authority and the duty to say, no, we're not going to let you enforce those laws in our state because there's no authority for you to govern what we sell and how our people keep and bear arms within our states. There's no authority for you for that. No, we're not going to let your Environmental Protection Agency come in and rule and reign over our land. And by the way, the FDA and the USDA, sorry, we don't find that authority in the Constitution. Because remember, we're the states that created the federal government. We're the creators of the federal government. And as the creators of the federal government, we have the authority to say, you know what, we didn't create you with that power. So that power does not exist to be authorized in our state. Not only are we not going to help you exercise that power, but we're not going to let you exercise that power on our people. The Department of Education, the Department of Interior, the Department of Ag, the Forestry Service, all of these organizations are extra constitutional. And according to Article 6, Clause 2, if their power is not exercised pursuant to the Constitution, the power is null and void. And what the American people and our governors and our attorneys general need to understand is that applies to the judiciary as well. The Supreme Court's authority is limited and defined by Article 3. The Supreme Court and federal court authority is limited and defined by the powers delegated to the federal government. So if the power, the authority is not delegated to the federal government, the federal judiciary doesn't have jurisdiction over the matter. So if there is no authority for delegated to the federal government to rule and reign over what we eat, what we drink, what we smoke, what we ingest, what we wear, what we buy, what we sell, how we live, how do we use our resources in our states, all these things that happen internally in the state, then the Supreme Court has no jurisdiction over those matters either. So we have to understand, and we really have to own this, that our states not only have an authority, they have a responsibility to say no. And we have this information documented for you in our book, Sovereign Duty. Have this information documented for you in a film we call Non-Compliant Movie that can be found at noncompliantmovie.com. And we want to help you know this because all political power is derived from the people. And the people have to stand for the proper application of their Constitution in order to defend their rights. So thank you, Doc, for letting me bring this information to the people. There are many ways to come to this understanding. We want to help you with some of them, but that's the one thing I wish everybody would know right now.
Exploring biohacking, bioharmonizing, biosynergizing, stacking, resilience, or anti-fragility?
Start here. No gimmicks, just proven results.